If building a real estate business were a cake, a 7-layer cake, most people would only show you the frosting, the finished product, that beautiful end result. Much like in our business, you only see the finished brand, the polished website, or the video that just looks oh so easy. Most share the success stories. But while I understand it, that is after an insecure decision was made in the dark of night, or after endless awkward attempts were made, and after countless failures were made. And you've heard these kinds of stories before, I'm sure. But I am really not interested in adding to that. That is not the part that I am interested in sharing, especially with you listeners over the course of 27. And that's why in 27, I'm embarking on a YouTube. And that YouTube channel is just the next evolution or the next layer of my real estate cake. It's not the first layer. It is definitely built on many other firsts, but it's the next one. It's the next layer of my real estate proverbial cake. It is sitting on top of things that I've already dedicated legitimately years to. 2 websites, postcard methods, Notion systems, Instagram work, video practice, the business planning, and of course, the identity ops methodology that underpins it all. Now, this YouTube channel, it is under construction. And I want to document this moment in time, this layer, while it's messy. The outcome is unknown. And I want to share it with you before it looks like anything close to impressive. And right now, my impressive channel has a whopping 3 subscribers at the time of this recording. The name, it's wrong. The name is wrong. I'll save the story for another time. My playlists, they're wrong too. So yes, is it live? Sure, it's live, but it's not even really findable because the name's wrong, unless you really go hunt for it. So yes, it exists, but it is trusted by no one, and I have 0 clients from it. And I've already put tons of hours into it. And I hear it's going to take me a minimum of something like 6 to 18 months of consistent posting on the chance that it converts, on the chance that it becomes anything meaningful for my business. And that's perfect. It is perfect because most business lessons in our space, they are cleaned up and presented to you long after the fact. They get turned into the neat little story or the productive, the ROI story, the thing that's already worked. Most of us are getting that version. When the useful part of anything, especially learning, is much, much earlier than that. The useful part is the actual messy middle. It's the part where the decisions and the strategy, it's all still sort of becoming real. And it's the thing you said you believed before that thing has anything to prove it's right. Yeah, that's the part, that awkward first thought, going all the way from that to action. That's the part that I want to start showing. Because this is the middle. That's when the cake, it's lopsided, it's leaning to the left, and the frosting's melting off. This is when most agents either quit or they learn how to bake a cake. And that's what we're going to talk about today. I've got a little bit of a longer one for you, but I think it's important. Welcome to Renovating Real Estate. I'm Sandy McMaster. Each week here we renovate. Ooh, we are going to renovate. We renovate the way real estate operators think, decide, and execute. And we're doing that using the Identity Ops method because most agents and brokers, they never truly operationalize what makes them different. And boy, am I on a mission to change that. And this week, we aren't learning how to bake. Lord knows I'm a terrible cook. We are not going to talk about cooking and baking. We're talking about a shift in what this here pod and this Substack channel, if you're looking at this on Substack, is going to do. For a while now, years actually, I've spent a lot of time thinking and talking about what feels broken to me inside of real estate. The sameness of it all, the general approach to training, the default and often very incomplete advice given to newer agents, the way agents are told to articulate your value before anyone helps them understand what their value actually even is. It's also the way that brokers know that there is untapped potential sitting inside their office, but they don't always have a clear way to draw it out of them. Now, believe me, when I say I still believe all that matters, I believe that needs to be given a voice. I still believe the industry has trained a lot of people to perform professionalism and treat relationships transactionally. I still believe too many agents are running businesses held together by adrenaline, memory, and wine. And I still believe most brokers are sitting on more talent than their current systems are designed to reveal. But here's the thing. At some point, another opinion about the industry is just another opinion. Even if it's thoughtful, even if it's true, even if it makes somebody nod along while they're drinking their coffee and they're thinking, yeah, that's true. That, exactly. Commentary, including my own, has a ceiling. You can agree with an idea and still not know what to do with it exactly on Monday. You can recognize the problem and still be stuck inside the same industry or stuck with office defaults. You can believe in better positioning, better standards, better client conversations, better leadership, better design, and still have no practical picture of what that looks like while it's being built. And that's the part that I want to change. I want to normalize it. So I am changing the shape of renovating real estate. Not completely. I still might have to go on a rant now and then. You guys are going to have to forgive me for that. Not completely, but meaningfully, I'm changing this. I'm going to move from mostly talking about why the industry needs to change to showing more of how I am trying to build differently inside my own business in real time. The planning, the decisions, standards, pivots, awkward middles, mistakes, and reversals, all included. Instead of another opinion about what is wrong with real estate, this is now going to be more like a workshop, a place to see something get built by somebody real and who's willing to get it wrong. And I mean that very literally. For the past month or so, I have been buried in business planning, and that's the kind of planning that starts out with reflection. It starts out with reflection, it moves to goals, it moves to calendars, it moves to strategy, and then it very rudely turns into a bit of a mirror when you have to stare at. Because good planning eventually asks better questions. Kind of raises the bar too. Not just what do you want to do, not just what do you hope for, but what are you actually building? Who does it serve? And why should they care? And again, rudely, sometimes, what are you avoiding? It's one thing to want something. Oof, it's another level to actually do it. Sometimes that business planning also reveals what part of the business is overcomplicated just because you haven't made a decision yet. And what would have to become visible for that vision to become real? Ooh, now we're getting into it. And one result of these kinds of questions and planning is this pivot, the one you're hearing about right now. This pivot only comes from asking myself the same kinds of questions I think we should be asking one another and normalizing it. The other result is the focus for my own real estate practice for 2027. Things, they are a changing. So, YouTube. Not because YouTube is magic. Please do not misunderstand me. YouTube is not magic, and I'm not under some spell that it is. And it's not because I think every agent needs to sprint towards a new platform with something that resembles the spirit energy of a squirrel in a parking lot. Not because I think content solves everything. It does not. YouTube does not. Content does not. But I do think YouTube can become the next trust layer in my consumer-facing real estate business. A place where buyers and sellers in Northern Virginia and DC can hear how I think before they ever sit across from me. A place where I can answer the questions people are actually asking and also share with them the questions I think they should be asking better questions that they may not even know to ask yet. It's that for consumers, but it's also a place where I can make my work here about renovating something I care deeply about. It's where this work becomes visible. So it's not going to be just listings. It's not going to be just market updates or hot takes. Not just the kind of these tips before you buy a home. It's not that tired content that kind of just has everybody tired right now. I mean, doing the work that actually converts a stranger to a potential consumer to a client. It's trust work. It's trust work. It's translation work. It's decision work, guide work. And to be clear, this is not a polished case study that I am somehow, reverse engineering after the fact. The channel is live, but maybe, just barely. It has 3 subscribers, 3. And I can't even change the name that's wrong. I can't even change that for another 7 days, which is annoying and also a perfect lesson we will absolutely talk about later. It is not a high-performing asset. It is not perfectly packaged. It is a beginning, a very raw, a very real beginning. And we'll talk about my naming journey later because talking through it uncovers useful lessons like visibility on YouTube. It's not the same thing as just because you're visible and you exist on YouTube doesn't mean it's going to convert. Being live is not the same thing as being findable. And being findable is not the same thing as being ultimately trusted and hired. These kinds of distinction matter as you build. They matter a lot because many agents are technically visible, right? They have a profile, they have a website, they have a logo, they have Canva templates. God, I love that Canva. They have the just listed posts. They have the so excited for my clients caption. But visibility is not the same thing as trust. Definitely not building the same thing as building real trust. And trust is not built just because you exist on a platform. Trust is built when people can understand how you think, what you notice, what you will protect, what you will not pretend to know, and how you help them make a better decision. That is the work. And that's why YouTube matters in this particular build with me. It's because it's not just another platform to feed. It's a layer as a layer in trust. And this is where talking about the cake comes in, because this is not a shiny new project. It's just the next layer of a 7-layer cake that's taken years to cook or build. Over the years, I've built many different parts of the business. It started out with doing things that people told me to do. And then I finally woke up one day and was like, nah, this isn't for me. So it started out after I had that small decade diversion. Then it started out with a brand claim, a website, postcard campaigns, Notion systems, Instagram, video production, business planning. Oh, all the things I've mentioned already. And each layer taught me something so valuable. Crafting a brand is one thing, but putting it into a website, well, that forces clarity. The postcards, well, that's only about 150 words. That forced discipline on me. Notion, if you don't know what Notion is, just Google it. Notion forced structure on me. And Instagram, in 3 minutes or less, that forced compression. And it also forced being seen. Video production, that forced me to hear my own thinking out loud, which is occasionally terrifying, but very useful, right? Business planning. Business planning in August forced the bigger question, which is, where is the industry headed? And what is my business actually becoming? So YouTube, it's the next layer on that cake. It's not replacing the others. It's just sitting on top of them. It's going to use them, and all of the knowledge and practice that I built along the way, I'm going to translate that and use them over there. I'm going to be testing whether all that prior work can now become a more useful public trust engine. And if you are an agent who is 3 to 5 years inside the business, this may feel especially useful and helpful because you recognize a few really important truths. You're not brand new anymore. You know how to write an offer. You know how to show property. You know how to survive the absolute emotional circus of a transaction without turning into a puddle on the floor. But you may also be starting to feel the gap between doing the job and actually building a business. That's a different problem. And a lot of agents hit that stage and assume that the answer is just do more content, more calls, more follow-up, more templates, scripts, things to post, more visibility, all the things. But more is not always the answer, my friends. Sometimes more just exposes the absence of a decision. Sometimes the business is not asking you to add another layer to your cake just yet. It's asking you to decide, what are you actually building in the first place? Are you selling real estate or are you solving a problem? Those are two different businesses. And what standards do you have that would prove it? That is where Identity Ops comes in, not as a slogan, as an operating practice. Identity Ops is the work of turning identity into standards and standards into defaults and defaults into sequence and sequence into decisions people can actually feel. The consumers, the people we're all dying to connect with. It asks, who are you when you are not performing? What problem are you actually wired to solve? And what does it feel like to be on the other side of you? What standards protect your best work? What decisions are you currently avoiding because specificity feels too risky? And what would your business look like if your answers actually matched your business? If your answers actually matched your actions? That is the lens that I will be turning on myself. The YouTube channel is just another case study. It's the 2027 layer. And Renovating Real Estate is where I will explain what the build is revealing. Whew, and for brokers, there is another layer here for you, because if you look around your office and think there is more talent here than what is currently showing up, I think you're probably right. There is more skill, there's more judgment, there's more care, more originality, more capacity, leadership. But it's not always obvious how to draw that out of a human. And the default answer is often, well, let's do more training. And sometimes training helps, of course, especially when you're new. But training alone does not solve a clarity problem. If agents are operating from borrowed scripts, vague positioning, unclear standards, and reactive business habits, more training can simply make them better at performing someone else's model. That is not evolution. That is compliance with a ring light. Maybe two. I've got two right now. What I'm interested in is how talent becomes more visible when the operating system gets clearer. After people have made some decisions. How standards give people something to grow into, and how content can become a training mechanism. And how a business can teach people what it believes by how it behaves. That is the broker side question I'll keep coming back to. What would change if we stopped trying to motivate talent and started giving it clearer conditions with which to emerge or come out or flourish? And I don't mean that as like a cute question. That's an operator's question. Because motivation is, you already know this, motivation is temporary. Conditions, they compound, especially now. And that is what I want to document here. So going forward, this space will sound a little different. And if you're not subscribed on Substack, there will be some screen sharing in the future, literally showing you, here's what I think. Here's where I started with this thought. And here's how it ended up on camera. Yeah, so this is going to start sounding and feeling a little different around here. It's going to be a little less industry diagnoses for the sake of diagnosing. Going to be a little more field notes from the build. It's basically going to be a documentation of it all. You'll see what I'm making. You'll hear why I made it, what I'm testing, what I'm avoiding, what I'm changing, and what I'm learning as I try to build the next layer of my own real estate business on purpose and for a very uncertain future and an uncertain return. Some pieces are going to come from the consumer-facing YouTube video, all the videos that I'm building, and some are going to come from before the publishing, before the video, more about how I'm thinking. Some will come from a planning session, showing you how it's developed from idea to draft to shooting, all of it. Some will come from the things that didn't work, right? Some are going to come from the very uncomfortable realization that the thing I claimed as a brand pillar was never operationalized in a useful way. You're going to watch it. You're going to see it all. Uncomfortable for me, but useful. Useful to you. And the goal is not to turn my business into a highlight reel. That is not what's going down here. The goal is to make the work become more visible. Because I think the middle is where the value is. It's in the beginning, in the middle. The middle is how standards get shaped. It's where they show up. The middle is where defaults that aren't good enough, they'll get exposed. And the middle is where a business, especially a business owner, they got to tell the truth. So if you are in that year 3 to 5 zone, I hope this gives you something more useful than just another tactic. I hope it gives you a way to see your own business a little more clearly. And it's going to ask you, what are you building by default? Where are you adding activity because you have not made some decisions beforehand? It's going to ask you things like questions like, where are you copying? Or where are you copying an industry norm that is just, honestly, it's no longer relevant. It no longer fits the business you actually want to build. And it might help you pinpoint where one clearer standard might make everything feel a lot less scattered. And if you're a broker, I hope this gives you a different way to think about the talent you already have inside of your office. Not just who needs more motivation, but who needs a better operating question. Who needs a clearer standard? Who needs permission to stop performing the generic version of success and start building something that truly fits? Because the build, the messy middle, that's where the truth comes out. It's not the announcement. It's not the plan. It's not the polished recap. It's the build. It's the decisions. And yes, it is the struggle. Yeah, that's how standards get made. And it's also where pivots happen. You're watching one live right now, or listening to one live right now. Because, you know, the kids say those are the receipts. And yes, probably, well, not probably. There's always the occasional moment where I realize the thing I told everyone else to do Well, it's now sitting in my own lap, asking for accountability. Fair enough. I'm ready. That's the workbench. That is the workshop. And this is where we begin. So you can subscribe if you really, you can be one of the few, the proud, subscribe to the YouTube to watch the 2027 build happen in real time. Or you can visit identityops.co to learn more about the Identity Ops methodology. Links to both. They might be in the show notes if I have enough time, but yes, they'll be in the show notes. And you can read the full essay on Substack if you're listening to this on a podcast. That is also where you can find the full written version of this here, Reset. And if this helped you, if this gets you excited, which I hope it does, because I gotta tell you, I feel pretty excited about it. I'm ready. So if this helps you in your own business see a little more clearly, forward it to a person who is actively engaged in the build, a person who keeps trying to solve a clarity problem by adding another tactic, and it's just another year of chaos. Send this to them, bring them in. You guys, together, we're going to build. So until next week, my friends, let the build begin.